Now, while it's well known that hot flashes, heart palpitations and difficulty sleeping are all physical symptoms of the menopause, many people don't realise the toll that hormonal changes can take on women's mental health.
While unknowingly going through perimenopause, Lynsey Gilmartin rapidly descended into a very dark depression, attempting to take her own life before being sectioned under the Mental Health Act.
But after her GP husband, Kieran, decided she should try HRT, things quickly started to improve. They're joining us now to share the shocking story alongside renowned menopause expert, Dr. Louise Newson. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, everybody.
Lynsey, let's start with you. Can you take us back to the beginning, essentially, and set up the story for us?
So this is exactly 2 years ago now.
Oh, it's only 2 years?
Yeah, just 2 years ago. And I started off with anxiety. I'm not an anxious person.
No.
But this anxiety, it was about the simplest things, just daily chores. Would I get a parking space on the school run? What am I going to put on the food shop? Just really low-level things. But I recognised something had changed within me. So I got in touch with my GP practice.
Not your GP husband?
Well, he's my husband, but not my doctor.
OK.
So, but I obviously discussed it with Kieran, and it appeared as an anxiety disorder, and that's what I went
Can
expecting.
I just ask how old you were?
I was 45.
45 at the time.
Yeah. And I was placed on antidepressants, but that's what I expected. I was thinking it's an anxiety disorder, therefore that's what I would be given. But it rapidly spiralled. The anxiety got worse. I found I was getting heart palpitations. And within about 6 weeks, it was as if a light had been switched off in me. There was no joy. And you could have lined up my children with 1,000 other children. And I felt absolutely nothing.
Well, that was one of the things when I was reading about this case, was it was like you felt like you got no love inside you at all in the space of a very short period of time.
It was literally in a matter of weeks. I went from working, functioning, to just really this joy had left. And shortly after this horrible feeling of lack of emotion, the intrusive thoughts came, and I constant thoughts of suicide, and I just didn't want to be here.
Kieran, I can't imagine what that's like to process as somebody's husband, but as a medical professional as well. It must have been so confusing.
It was, because obviously, as you say, I've had experience with this over 20 years of being a doctor. But to watch your wife go through it, and it was, I could see it in her eyes. It's like she'd gone. Literally, there was nothing there. And she was always open about the thoughts, and she was able to sort of tell me all the time that I want to kill myself, I don't want to be here. And she loves our kids, you know, and it's the same case now, but it just gone. As she said, she just had nothing in her that was worth carrying on for. And it was about trying to get her the help. And obviously, we went down the route and went down the mental health route, because at that point, that's what it seemed like.
You had to be sectioned.
Yeah, I had to be sectioned.
I mean, that's an extraordinarily extreme measure to take, but it was that bad.
Yeah, Kieran was having to watch me 24/7, and it was done for safety reasons.
Because you did try to attempt to take your own life.
Yeah, at this point, I'd certainly made it quite known that that's what was going to happen. But it was later down the line that I actually
attempted.
Yeah.
So then when you got sectioned, what happened next?
I was in a inpatient facility for, I think, 6 weeks. They tried different antidepressants, different combinations, and I was also given ECT.
Electric shock.
Which was the electroconvulsive therapy, which, again, but that, you know, it's used in extreme cases. There is some really great evidence to say it will work with some mental health disorders, but nothing was really changing, and I was just... These intrusive thoughts, they were just 24/7. I can't explain it. It was like wading through treacle. It's so hard to explain, like the mental torture.
So you're having all this treatment, really extreme electric shock treatments, antidepressants. When did somebody bring up the menopause or hormones?
They didn't. They didn't. This was it. It was said as a background comment. Maybe this could be her hormones, but that was it. It was never, this could be her hormones, therefore maybe there's an alternative route. It was being treated as a mental health disorder, therefore traditional mental health therapy.
So what happened then to step over that line from it just being something people were ignoring to actually going, well, let's give it a go?
Yeah, I came out on weekend leave and saw my children for the first time in 6 weeks, and it was like being a stranger in my own home. And then I tried to kill myself. And thankfully, it didn't go to plan. I did sustain some serious injuries. I fractured my spine and my pelvis in a few places and caused some real damage to my left foot. And I was then in a trauma orthopaedic ward. So I was out of the inpatient facility, and they were treating my physical symptoms, whereas my mental symptoms were, in fact, I was even worse then. I was sort of trapped in a physical situation as well as a mental situation.
So whose idea was it to try the HRT? Was it Kieran?
Yeah.
And what made you suddenly think, you know what, we've tried everything else. That's what it sounds like when you read it. Try it.
Because we'd done all the things that it seemed like it was.
Yeah.
So the mental health, all of the things that I thought...
So you'd done a checklist. Let's rule everything out.
And I spoke to one of the psychiatrists and got a second opinion, and it was a female psychiatrist who listened. And she said, I don't know how to prescribe it or what to do, but let's give it a go. And she was on an orthopaedic ward, but they don't know how to do it. They asked the specialist, which is the gynaecologist, and they said, speak to a GP. So the doctor spoke to me, I told them what to do, and then they prescribed it just before she was discharged.
How quick was that turnaround, Lynsey, from when you started on the...
The HRT, it was literally within 28 days. Wow. It was...
You were a completely different person.
It was like waking up from a nightmare.
From attempting suicide, 28 days later.
Yeah, and I was me again, just me, and it was horrifying to sort of relive what had happened, but at the same time, I was just so grateful that it was like, I'm back.
Louise, it's extraordinary to hear this from the sidelines. It's their lived experience, which is even more terrifying for them. So thankful that they found the answer. But how it could have gone on for so long with no one thinking, hey, does anyone think this could be? She's about the right sort of age.
Yeah, and it's not rare, yeah.
It's really sad, and it's the bit that worries me the most, because it's not rocket science, any of this, because we know our hormones work in our brains. Our brain produces estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, and levels decline, most commonly in the 40s. And the commonest symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are low mood, anxiety, brain fog, memory problems, poor sleep, brain disorder, really.
Yes.
And so, but we weren't trained. I had a meeting with a lot of the doctors I worked with last night, and we were all saying we've never seen this transformational effect because we've never tried. When we were doing psychiatry training, general practice training, we weren't taught, so you don't see the results. Yeah. But when you do, you want to scream from the rooftops, because every day I'm being confronted by people who do have very dark thoughts, and the number of women who are in mental hospitals under psychiatrists who aren't able to access HRT is staggering, not just in the UK, but globally.
I mean, you're a GP, Kieran. Yeah. Since this experience, have you sort of suddenly started going, GPs need more training in what's happening with menopause and perimenopause?
I think it's also resources. Right. You know, as we all know, general practice, like the NHS is struggling, and we're in an election year, and they're all talking about it, but they need to put the money where the mouth is. And we need that support for the resources, for the training, to assist us in doing the job as well as we could do it. Yeah. But we need the people, we need the time.
And how are you feeling now? You look amazing.
Yeah, I feel great now. It was literally like a really awful period in my life, and it ended. And then I'm back to me, and I just think I had no idea that I was perimenopausal. Absolutely, it wasn't on my radar. Yeah. So it can't just be me.
No. It's not just you.
No, it isn't.
And that's the point, isn't it? Louise is going to be here a little bit later on with our phone-in on your menopause questions. We've been absolutely inundated with people who want some answers and want some help, just like you as well. So fingers crossed we can find that help. Thank you for sharing your story, though. It's great to meet both of you.
Thank you very much.
And Louise, we'll see you in just a bit. Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.